Hello everyone, welcome back to Fanblade. I have mummified the necks ready for their burial. I have put the masking tape on the necks ready for the levelling process to begin. It's a pretty simple process. There's some just basic engineering here. You have a soft, uneven thing versus a hard, flat thing. And we want these to be flat, so it's not rocket science. All you need to do is to be able to see how much you're taking off, because you want to take off as little as possible. So you use a Sharpie to mark the fret, you come in with the file to level off the fingerboard, then the flat part on there you need to round them over with a crowning file to get them back to a nice round shape. I've got two sizes here. I've got a big chunky one for the basses, and I've got a multi-sized one for the guitars. This is not a particularly great file. I don't recommend this style of file, but it's the only one that I've got that's the right size. So, yes, if you want to know more about this process, there is a bit more to it, but there's 1,000 videos on YouTube, and I've got work to do, so I'm not going to get into it here. I'm just going to do it. Here we go. Now, I need to get as much light as I can on these so I can see what I'm doing as carefully as I can. So what that means is that I need to turn on the big work light above the bench, and what that means is that the rest of this will be filmed in banana vision. So this is actually a really perfect example, really. You can see how this one's quite high here, so it's taking more off. This one's low, but it's high at this end, and that's stopping the file from hitting these two, and these two are stopping the file from hitting this one at this side. Really, we want to get rid of all of the Sharpie. That's only after 4 or 5 passes with the file, very lightly as well. So you can see how uneven they can be, even after you've prepped the board perfectly. We're talking tenths of a millimetre here. These are tiny amounts, but the Sharpie doesn't lie. Okay, now what you're seeing on camera right now is there's a dark patch there and some along the edges, and that one there, and all these look like they're still black. What you're seeing there is shadow. What you're seeing right there is the very last low spot that I actually need to file off. This one here, you can see I've filed that's extremely flat. That fret must have been sticking up, because it's getting right in the way of this one. Everything else on the board is level. The Sharpie is off the top. You can see across that one there's it sort of looks lighter here and darker there. That's just shadow that you're seeing. But what I'm seeing is one remaining little bit of Sharpie. Now you see what's happened here is that I've had to file a lot off this fret just at that end. That is a direct result of either the slot not being completely clean or the fret end not being completely straight when it went into the slot. Either way, the end of that fret's been sitting up slightly and we've had to file off quite a lot of it. I'm glad to say that there's not that many that are like this, but there's enough of them that I thought it was worth mentioning that you always want to make sure your slots are clean and that your frets are dead straight. Right, second verse, same as the first, except in reverse. Rather than flattening off the frets, we're going to round them over, and I've got a couple of special files for that. This is a professional one for doing basses, and this is not. This is the cheapest load of old rubbish you can get. It does work for these softer frets. It does not work on stainless, unfortunately. I found that out the hard way. Yeah, so you just mark your thing, file your thing, check that what you wind up with is a dead straight line of perfect Sharpie right down the centre, and that's how you know that you've got it rounded off enough, and then you should be good to go. I've just discovered something interesting, or as Bob Ross would say, had a happy accident. This crowning file here is garbage. It's awful to use, it doesn't work very well, and, you know, whatever, $6 or whatever I paid for it, you know, it's worth every cent of that. This one, however, is a $50 tool, and it works far better. I've never tried doing this before, but what I've just discovered is that you can come in on the edge, and you can come in on the other edge, and it will give you exactly the clean little line that you want down the middle. You don't have to go straight on top to cut the curve of the file onto the fret. You have control of the curve by using the file to cut the fret. So, yeah. That's cool. Thank you, Bob Ross. We have arrived at the second to last step. We are up to polishing the frets. Now, I start with some 400 grit, and I do the edges of the frets on both sides first, then I polish along the length of the fret. And as you get up to these through the subsequent grits, you can see why. You will notice that when like I say, when I get to the 800 and I do the ends, you can see scratch marks going across each fret, but you polish those out lengthways afterwards. So 400, 600, 800. I don't have any 1000 grit, so I'll be jumping straight to 1200. And that should be fine. I like to go real hard on the 400 first, because there's like I can see Sharpie marks and this file marks and little burrs on the edges and things like that. You get all of that with the 400 first, and it makes the subsequent grits a whole lot easier, because all you're doing at that point is just polishing a surface. You're not actually trying to remove any material. Whereas with the 400, you are trying to just remove a little bit of, there's a few little jagged bits. Hit it with the 400 hard first, as I described, and then all the rest of the grits, just polish them up nice. Then the very last process is to strip off the masking tape and sand out the rest of the neck. Now, there's a neat little trick. When I did the edge filing on the frets, I went in just a little bit. I'm not going to say a little bit too far. I just went in just a little bit. So there's actually a tiny bevel just along the edge of each fretboard, and that allows me to get the sandpaper around and sand that edge without touching my freshly polished fret at all. Like, the finish line is in sight. We are nearly done. Nearly done. Right, it's getting late and I've had to switch over to my cell phone for filming, but we are going to get these finished. I'm going to take the masking tape off, and then I need to sand out the rest of the necks. Now, ordinarily I would start with some 400 and then go 600, 800, 1000. I don't have any 600 left. I don't trust the cheap stuff that I was using there on wood. It's fine for doing frets, metal work and things. I sharpen my chisels with it all the time, but it's not good enough to get a fine finish on wood. So we're just going to basically go 400, 800, call it done. That'll give a nice, smooth, satiny finish. It'll be a very, very fine neck, and then I can sand it out later if I feel that it's warranted. I've actually just decided to go a tiny little bit of 240 just on the edges to take the rest of that wood filler off. It's just going to clog up all of my 400. So just a little bit just along the edges just to clean that off, and then we'll get to polishing. if I'm 100% honest, that to me feels like it needs 3 more coats of oil and then to be sanded out to 1200. It feels pretty nice. It feels very nice, but I just feel like it could be a little bit better. I will do the rest of them and see what I feel. Yeah, so they're good. I mean, they're looking pretty good. Like, I'm pretty happy with that fret job. But just the finish on the necks, it's like it's nice. It's nice and smooth, but it's not like life-changingly amazing. So, yes, I think I will examine my options in the morning because right now it's 2 hours past my bedtime. So, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. We're nearly done with the necks. I promise you, tomorrow we'll be done with the necks.